All right. Hopefully, you all can hear me. I'm not going to keep this very long because I know it's very late, at least here on the East Coast. But I want to talk about some things, okay? Because some people have publicly stated that they are flagging some of you in the space, okay? And the way that they've done it, per their own admission, is that they have a personal contact with YouTube. So what they did with one young lady's channel, again, according to this one raggedy, crusty face bitch, her own admission, is they showed that young lady's content to this particular contact at YouTube. And that's how they got her a copyright strike. The other thing they're doing is they're targeting those of you who primarily make live content because, as I've learned over the years through observation, is that it's easier to flag a live stream than it is an upload. Because what happens apparently is if you flag an upload, it kind of gets lost in the sauce in terms of, someone at YouTube looking at the video. But if you flag a live video, from what these people are openly admitting, when you flag a live video, if enough people are flagging at the same time, it immediately gets YouTube's attention. And their initial response is to just remove the video. And the only way you can attempt to restore it is to appeal the copyright strike. Okay, because that's another game they're playing. They're doing the copyright game. Okay, that's an old school trick that, from what I've learned from other sectors, what happens is when you respond to a copyright strike, you have to give, I believe, either a name or an email address. And when you respond to the strike, the person who reported you gets a copy of your request. So they get whatever information you use when you respond to the strike. So if you do appeal a copyright claim, make sure that the email address you give is not tied to anything remotely associated with you. Otherwise, that person now has your information. Okay? Because since these bitches are so dumb that they're openly saying what their plan is, it's like, well, okay, well, let's respond. The other thing that's happening is that, because I saw this today, I was catching up on what's been taking place. And apparently, well, no, it's not apparent because the bitch said it out of her mouth. What this bitch said, the one shark teeth, is she said that divested Black women who do not show our faces are cowards. They're also saying things like calling us lesbians and stuff like that, which, if you are a lesbian, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, and you should not be shamed for your sexual preference, okay? But most of us in this space are heterosexual. We just choose not to deal with one particular group of men. All right? Those kind of statements are very demeaning. They're very inflammatory. And it is very, look, some of y'all looking real oppish out here. Y'all looking real snakish out here because it is terrible, especially for those of you that are older, like y'all are my age and older, looking at a space full of Black women and telling us that we're wrong to want to protect our identity. That is absolutely irresponsible, especially if you are a Black woman content creator who has been in this space long enough to see what has happened to other Black women. You should absolutely understand why we want to protect our identities. The other thing that I keep having to remind you hoes is that we do not owe it to you. We don't owe anything to you in terms of giving you our identity and our information. Like, bitch, who the fuck do you think you are? We don't owe you that. Hey, Toffee, we don't owe you that. If I tell you, okay, I'm going to come on here and make my content, but I don't want y'all to know who I am. I don't want y'all to know too much about me. Like, I have the right to do that, as does every other Black woman on this platform. And you all are just as weird and stalkerish as the sons you keep trying to push off on us. You're demonizing us for telling Black women, like, hey, there's nothing wrong with wanting to be married and happily married and wanting to be provided for and wanting to be taken care of. There's nothing wrong with us wanting to be loved and nurtured. Right. Because I'm going to go into something else about that march. Because since you all are playing these flagging games, these copyright games, and you are misinforming YouTube about the nature of our space, let me tell you all that supported that march that, first of all, it is horrific that you all were encouraging Black women to attend a public event in the middle of a pandemic. Black women are still contracting COVID. Black women are still dying from COVID. And if you didn't have anything in place to protect those women, and you didn't have any sort of legal protection for yourself, then let me explain something to y'all, since you think you know everything. If any Black woman that attended that farce of a march, if they contract COVID or monkeypox, you're now in the position to face a lawsuit. Anyone involved with planning and organizing that march, congratulations, you dumbass bitch, you can get sued. The other thing that I saw today, because I saw some of those clips, and it was disgusting to see those of you who are Black women content creators in this space. You put those women on camera, had them showing their faces, their names, telling what type of work they did in some position, in some situations, and telling people what part of the country they're from. Do you know how easy it is for those women to be found now? So guess what else you just did? You put yourself in the position to be sued if any of those women lose their jobs as a result of attending your event. If any of those women are harmed or attacked as a result of an association with your event, you can now be sued, because clearly the same bitches who were too dumb to realize that we could see that they hadn't actually planned a march because there was no permit, and we could see that the event was not scheduled because, bitch, it's public information, it's online. You bitches probably didn't have anything in place to protect yourselves from a liability perspective and to ensure the safety of the women at that event. Congratulations. And since you all are playing these copyright games and you've got your contact at YouTube, well, guess what? Any of the women who attended that march, if you face any sorts of threats, if you are attacked in any way, shape, or form, reach out to me and I will help you address it legally. Because y'all are going to learn that everybody is not as stupid as you think. And what you all did is y'all went and got the permit after we pointed out, like, hey, we know you we know you don't have one. Because contrary to what they have lied to you all and told you, is that it only takes about 2 or 3 weeks for Washington, D.C. to process those permits. How do I know that? Because it's on their website. It doesn't take months to plan. It doesn't take months to get a permit. Just like you don't need security. And we had to point that out to y'all. Well, hey, if you file for the permit, the police department will provide security for free. Usually at events like that, it's police officers who are working overtime who provide the security. You all are playing with women who are much more intelligent than you realize. And once YouTube realizes that you're out here false flagging people, guess what? You can lose your channel. Any of you, if you're a content creator and you're false flagging any divested Black woman in this space, I will make it my mission to ensure that YouTube holds you accountable. I will make it my mission to make sure that if any of those women are harmed because you plastered them on camera, their faces are all over social media, I'm going to help them address it. Just for the hell of it. Do you understand? You also could be liable for emotional distress because those women are being dragged because people are making certain statements about their appearance. If any of those women were to say that as a result of appearing at your event, and because you did not properly make them aware of the potential consequences, they are suffering emotionally, if any of them require counseling, guess what? That's another reason you can be sued. And all of these things I'm saying are the law. This is not anything I'm making up. This is not something I'm doing because, oh, I'm mad and I'm triggered. So this is how I'm going to get you. No, sweetheart. This is the law, which clearly you know nothing about. They could make you refund them for any money they spent to attend the event. Did you know that? As you're out here calling people cowards and, saying that we need to show up to this event and fight back. No, honey. We are not going to put Black women in the position to be physically harmed. What if those men had shown up and acted out on their threats? That's another reason that you could have been sued. Or what they could decide to do is find out who those women are and attack them. This is what you get for trying to come for a group of women who are simply offering solutions to Black women. Because contrary to what you're saying, divestment is very solution oriented and our channels are very solution oriented, you idiot. We're saying, hey, we have assessed our predicament as Black women. We have identified the root of the problems we're facing. And the best solution is to get away from the fucking problem. Here's how you do it. Most of the people that y'all are coming for talk about a lot of different things. But the fact of the matter is you've been looking for reasons to drag divestors because y'all been oppish the whole time you've been in this space. You were simply here to get information about Black women in this sector so you could then try to snake them. Because you got to think about it. Why is it so important to these women for us to identify ourselves? Because I don't know if you all remember it, but one person who has almost 200,000 subscribers openly said during a live stream that she felt like divested Black women should be identified and have our family members and employers contacted. And I'm like, you idiot. Don't you think our families know our opinions? You dumb bitch. See, you want to destroy our lives because you all have put yourselves in a position where you can't have a normal life. When you come onto the internet and you show your face you identify yourself and you say anything, whatever your commentary is, at any moment, someone in the audience can get offended and try to destroy your life. It's happened in all types of sectors. But to look at Black women and say, okay, you want to protect yourself? What? I make content where I talk 100% of the time about the statistics about the unaliving of Black women. But what? Even though this is the primary motherfucker killing you, you are wrong to not want to be around him. Do you realize how dumb y'all are? You bitches are a bunch of hypocrites. Because on the one hand, you're saying, okay, this is the problem, but why would you? Okay, so they're abusive. So what? And see, this whole idea that Black women who are not in relationships with Black men do not have to worry about being victimized by them is not true. There are women who go to the grocery store and they're getting sexually assaulted and unalived. There are women who are being stalked by men who happen to work with them. There are Black women, the majority of Black women live in areas where there are a lot of Black men. So even if they don't personally date them, guess what? They could be walking to or from their car one day and get unalived. They could be at the gas station. I mean, like, are you paying attention when you talk about the stories? Are you paying attention when you read off those statistics, you dumb idiot? I'm trying not to get upset because my voice gets really high pitched when I'm mad. But like, what are you talking about? It's like you're making content, but you don't actually believe what you're saying. And the other thing that these women have done is they are attempting to trademark the term Black femicide. And the reason they're doing that is because if they have the trademark, then if you make a video and you have the term Black femicide in the title, or you use it in your commentary, they can flag you. It's a copyright claim. I mean, it's the exact same thing every time. It's like, wow, y'all can't even switch up your game plan. But that's what they do, because if they flag a term enough, it'll get YouTube's attention, especially since they have a contact, which is another point I want to bring up. The person who said that she has a contact with YouTube has a small channel, like mine. My channel is very small. So is hers. And as a smaller content creator, it is very difficult to have a direct line to someone at YouTube, meaning that she probably got that information from a larger content creator. So I'm going to look around and see where the Holy Spirit leads me. But I have an idea of some people who it may be. Because I mean, I know in other sectors, you might have to have a couple $100,000 to even be able to get a direct line with someone at YouTube. Because if it's somebody at YouTube who was able to look at a video and get it striked immediately, it's like, okay, sis, since you were dumb enough to put that out there, who gave you that information? Your channel, having 1,000 or 2,000 subscribers is not enough to be able to get a connect with YouTube. So someone who is a larger content creator is helping flag this space. And I think you all would probably be very surprised at who it is. It's probably not going to be someone in the pro-Black sector. You never know, though. But it's probably going to be someone who you would think would be supportive of Black women and our ability to have our own spaces. You don't have, hey, minding my business, you don't have to agree with another Black woman to at least acknowledge, well, yes, she has the right to her opinions, her viewpoints, and she has a right to use the YouTube space within its guidelines. And there's nothing we're doing that's outside of the guidelines. Another thing I hope you all are careful about. Be careful if when you're doing a call-in show, be careful about these people that no one really knows of. Like we haven't seen them in the space at all, but they claim to be new to the space. And when they call into the channel, they say things that would make it easy to flag the content. Because I'm noticing that too. Or they come to the channel, they call in, and then at the end of the call, they act like they were attacked by the content creator or those of us who are supportive of those creators. Because that's another game they play. Once they realize that it's not going to be easy for them to flag you, they send their minions at you under the guise that they're supporters, but they're really there to help you get flagged. I mean, it's the same MO. Like I said, I saw this happen with another sector, and I didn't agree with the content in that sector. But to be objective, those content creators were not doing anything that wasn't allowed by the YouTube space. You simply had a group of people who said, well, I don't like these people, and therefore I'm going to target their channels. Okay? That's what people do. But yes, sweetheart, since we're so cowardly, why don't you be brave and let us know who gave you that contact that is directly connected to YouTube? You don't realize that you just told a lot. You told on yourselves and some other people. So yes, sweetheart, show us a lesson in strength and let us know who gave you that contact. And if you're feeling really bold, why don't you tell us who the contact is? So that we can go on and let them know that what you're doing is actually false flagging. You're misusing YouTube's system. Y'all are dumb. You don't realize how long some of us have been in this sector and what we have observed in this space. And I'm sorry, darling, your channel is far too small to get YouTube's attention. So how'd you get the contact? Is it someone you already knew? I doubt that. I mean, just being honest, if you were the type of person who lived a life where you were connected with those types of people naturally, then you would know enough, okay, that the way you present yourself on camera is abominable. Okay? People with money, one of the first things they do, especially with their kids, is they get their teeth fixed. I'm sorry, it's 2022. Okay? So the fact that you don't have the self-awareness to do something that simple before you decide to make yourself visible to the public lets me know that in your ordinary life, you don't have those types of connections, darling. But I think I know exactly who gave you that information. And you're putting yourself and all of those people involved with you at a strong disadvantage. Since we like to information gather and things like that, do you realize that there's so much legal liability around that march that it would be easy to sue you all for certain things? It would be easy for the women who attended that march to sue you for certain things. It would be easy for you all to be sued for false flagging. Did you know that? If especially if they have a monetized channel, if a content creator has a monetized channel, and as a result of false flagging, they lose the monetization and or the channel, they can sue you. If they can show, like, hey, I got X amount of dollars in super chats, and now I can't get that money because I'm no longer monetized. Congratulations, dumbass. You can be sued. And because it's easy enough to find out who you are all are so dumb that you've shown your faces and told everyone where you live. So don't play this game. That's the other thing. Speaking of super chats, if you notice, when I mod for people's channels, I primarily encourage the audience to donate to Patreon or Cash App or Venmo, because what people do is they screen record the chats, right? So if you donate a super chat to a channel and your name is attached to your profile, people have had their employers contacted. So if you make donations, you can make them privately so that you don't put yourself at risk. Plus, the content creators get more of the donation. Super chat takes, I don't know, 30, 40%. Whereas if you send a Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, whatever, the content creator gets the money minus whatever fee, those things charge. It's usually only like $1 or $2. Okay. But this is why I warned you all a little while ago that we may have to be very careful with certain words. And we have to be very careful about people who call us things like radical, toxic, and extreme. And frankly, you have to throw those bitches to the wolves that are lying and suggesting that we're like the manosphere. We are nothing like them. Our content and the information we present is based on verifiable data. It's based on statistical data. Whereas the manosphere uses manipulated stats or they outright lie. So this lie where they're saying that only a small percentage of Black men have children is not true. Because what they're doing is they're looking at Black men that are like 18 or 19. But by the time they get to 25, 30, 40 and up, they have a high single father rate. That lie where they're suggesting that Black men are the most active fathers is not true. That lie is based on a self-reported survey. So you had a few hundred men, maybe a few thousand, who were asked a set of questions, and based on how they responded, you get the results of this study. Okay? It's not true. When you look at real data, you see that they have very low participation when it comes to fatherhood. They have very low compliance in terms of visitation and child support. We're not lying about these niggas. What we're telling y'all, again, is backed up by the FBI, the CIA, Kaiser Permanente, all those very reliable organizations. The data shows that Black women are unalived at a much higher rate than other races of women, and we are unalived primarily by one group of men. Don't get mad at me, get mad at that nigga. The stats show that Black children are sexually harmed at a rate that's higher than other races of children. The data proves that at least 60% of Black girls are molested or otherwise sexually assaulted by the time they turn 18. The data shows that there is a much higher rate of sexual assault on HBCU campuses. Again, don't get mad at me, sweetheart. Get mad at that nigga. Okay? So we're not anything like the manosphere. But what they're trying to do is tie us to them. They're calling us things now like misandrist, which is not true. The evidence supports divestment in our content. History confirms that, frankly, we birthed you bitches. Original BWE automatically meant that a fully mentally and emotionally healthy Black woman will naturally divest. Unfortunately, BWE has lost itself, okay? And again, it has been my position for quite some time that divestment is now its own sector. We're our own space. But let's be clear. Let's be very clear. The mother of divestment is original BWE. Not this watered down bullshit that frankly is going to get a lot of you killed. Because like I said, why the hell would you show those women on camera when you know how vicious these people are online? You've seen Black women who have had their lives ruined. By putting themselves out there unwisely. And as the organizers of those events, and as content creators who supported it, you are absolutely legally liable if anything happens to those women. So like I said, we can dance this dance if you want, but it's not going to go the way you want. But again, I'll be waiting and watching to see who gave you that contact. Because baby doll, your channel is too small and your name is not doing anything around here enough to get YouTube's attention. Unless someone with a bigger platform gave you the ammunition to unfairly and maliciously and falsely flag Black women who are simply warning other Black women about our predicament. And it is extremely insulting to be attacked by a group of dumb, ugly bitches. I'm sorry. I'm just going to say it. I'm going to call a thing. And just because a woman doesn't cam up doesn't mean she's not attractive. It just means we don't owe it to you to present ourselves to the public. Now, this whole thing you all say, whoo, this is a lot. I'm sorry. But this whole thing you all suggest where you say that, oh, well, if you don't cam up, you can't talk about people's looks. Bitch, yes, I can. You're the one who came on camera with cheap ass makeup, a dusty wig, and fucked up teeth. And I don't give a fuck. I'm sorry, honey. I'm a Southern Black woman, and I'm going to talk about you. I'm going to talk about you, and if I feel like it, I'm going to drag you. Okay? Okay? So now, I'm sure you all can run along to your groups or clubhouse and talk your shit. Throw the rock and hide your hands as usual. It's a setup. I'm telling you, one lady said it, and I was shocked. Because divested Black women were actually supporting her channel. And it's like, well, bitch, you know what we believe. Shit, it is what the fuck it is. But she was like, people need to know who you are and contact your jobs and your family members. And it's like, wow, okay. And that's what y'all are doing. That is the perfect term. This is a setup. It ain't no reason you should put them women on camera. No reason. Y'all act like you've forgotten about that young lady, Asia, okay, who did not make this type of content, right? She really was just on her channel, you know, uploading her opinions. And the opinions were not what anyone would call taboo, okay? And she was stalked by a guy on her college campus and he killed her. And that was over a decade ago. And it's like, wow, y'all ain't learned nothing yet. Y'all did not learn that. I mean, you could, and sometimes the women that are being attacked online are not even doing anything other than maybe they reject a man's advances. And so the guy tracks them down and kills them. You all are disgusting. But I mean, I was mortified. I'm watching this and I'm like, okay, wait a minute. You're asking these women their names and where they're from? Are you dumb? Are you dumb? So now what happens is if for any reason there's a rift between the organizers of that march and some of the women who attended, those people now have your identities. They have your name, your face. They have you on camera. And you know how it is with these things. There's always some sort of tussle in the background. And so what these bitches do when they get upset is they dox. I have heard them on Clubhouse suggesting that if they get upset, there's nothing wrong with them deciding to quote unquote expose someone. And I do have to wonder, again, where's the self-awareness, Black women? Why on earth would you put yourself in that position? Especially because, you know, a lot of those women were of a particular age. They were middle-aged. These weren't young girls who maybe, you know, they just haven't lived long enough to really understand the consequences of that stuff. I'm like, come on, y'all. These are the people who have kids and grandkids, and you doing shit like this? You have no sense of self-preservation or of doing anything to protect yourselves. That's why your kids keep getting fucked up left and right. Because you keep putting yourself and everyone around you in shitty positions. I'm telling you, it's a setup. Because I saw in one of those videos that there was at least one Black man in attendance. And I'm like, really? So you raised the money and then canceled the event because you talked about the threats you were receiving from Black men as you invited them to your what? What? And I'm sorry, you bitches are not qualified to say shit about divestors because it's clear you bitches are dumb. You are dumb. And I have to question the I have to question the intelligence of women who would not think of that before they would go to a march. Or who wouldn't at least think, well, okay, I don't mind going, but I don't want to be on camera. And before you run around here requesting that we take our videos down, if you had any sense or if you had any compassion for those women, you would remove the videos where you've shown their names and faces. You'd remove the videos. Or you would edit, you know, you would blur out their faces and you would edit out their names. But see, now it's too late. People have probably screen recorded and everything. But I'm glad that you thought about it because yes, they want to know names, locations, jobs. They want to know all of that. And that is, see, that's another thing about y'all in this game you're playing. Hey, DZ. Y'all got to know another thing about this. Y'all are killing me in this chat. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, had the camera all up in their faces. And I'm like, well, that's another legal liability. When you took the video of them, did you make sure that you have something in writing with a signature confirming that they are giving you permission to post the videos on social media? Because if you didn't, guess what, darling? You dumbass bitch. You can now be sued for that as well. Let's see, there was something else. Oh, yes. Since you all think this game of trying to track people down is all right, see, since you put your name and face out there and there are public articles with your name and face, one of you has a license in your state, albeit a low-level one, but you have a nursing license, right? Keep playing this game, dog. And I'm telling you, all the shit you wish for us will happen to you. Keep playing this game. If any divested content creator is in any way negatively impacted by this bullshit, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you how to deal with losing a license. And none of that was doxing because it's public information. You put your name and face out there, told everyone what part of the country you're in, told everyone what job you do. You've told it all over social media. Again, there are public news articles. And that license information is public information. So if you all want to play this game, we can play it. But just like you're losing in life, you will lose this game. If any Black woman who is supportive of divestment, who supports the channels, who appears on panels, if any of those women have anything happen to them as a result of this game you're playing, we're going to show you how it feels, sweetheart, to deal with something like that, because it would be very easy. See, when you do things like plan marches, you're supposed to talk to an attorney beforehand. That's why some of us initially supported the GoFundMe and shared the link so that others could support you. Because the assumption is, because with event planning, anyone with half a brain knows this, the assumption was that some of that money would be used if you had legal fees because you had to perhaps have an attorney on retainer. A lawyer would have told you all of the things that I brought up. A lawyer would have helped you make sure you had all of that in place. And it wouldn't have cost you that much. In most states, less than $1,000 to have them on retainer. See, you all are not thinking. If any Black woman had been injured at that march, if she tripped and fell and broke her ankle, you can be sued. Like if there are cracks in the pavement, right, and someone's heel got caught in that crack, you could be sued and have to pay their medical fees if they had to be out of work. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. You all are not nearly as smart as you think you are. But you all better just run along and go about your raggedy ass business. Because this can get real fucked up and ugly if you keep playing. And that is not a threat because, again, everything that I am talking about is the law. And see, DC is one of those places, if I'm not mistaken, where they don't have a lot of limits on how much you can be sued for. So, like, for example, here in the Commonwealth, the maximum amount that you can get in a lawsuit, I think, is $100,000. But in places like Washington, D.C., you could be sued to the tune of millions of dollars. Okay? You all had a stage at that event. If someone had fallen off of the stage, lawsuit. Lawsuit. If some of your setup had fallen on a person, lawsuit. Okay? So this is the only warning I'm going to give you. If you keep playing this game, we're going to see how your state feels about this march you planned, the money you collected, how you collected it, because that's, oh gosh, this is fun. See, that's another thing. You have a nonprofit organization, darling. Because see, you bitches gonna keep talking and you gonna get that girl in a world of trouble. You have a nonprofit organization. What most people would have done is they would have asked people to donate to the nonprofit. But see, what happens is with a nonprofit, their financial status is public information. So they would have to show the government how they use that money, and anyone could legally get a copy of the report. So you would have had to show people what you were doing with the money. With a GoFundMe, you don't have to do that. Because that was one thing that was very odd to me. I was like, well, if you have a nonprofit, why don't you just do it through the nonprofit? Especially because, from a tax perspective, you dummy, from a tax perspective, it would have been better to do it that way. Because, you just put yourself in a better position tax-wise, right? But just think about that when people have nonprofit organizations and they're asking you for money for what is supposed to be a public event. Pay attention to how they want you to donate. But yeah, see, with the GoFundMe, technically you can get the money and there's no way for anyone to see what you did with it, because I'm sorry, but that was not $30,000 or $40,000. It wasn't. It didn't even look like you had food for those people, like no sandwiches. Well, in the days of COVID, it's probably better to have simply ordered the food, but you could have done that with nearly $40,000, had a restaurant, right? Provide food, make sure there's water, because that's another liability. What if someone had passed out at that event? Passed out, hit their head, or otherwise hurt themselves? Lawsuit. Everything about that shit, lawsuit. Okay? But I'm telling y'all gonna get that girl in trouble. But it's gonna be trouble that she brought on herself and that you all brought on her. Because I don't care what anyone says, that whole thing was a big money grab. And I'm starting to eye the content creators who promoted that event, because it's making me wonder if they split the money. But see, that's another thing that we can't verify, because even though you have a nonprofit organization that could have been used to raise the money, you did it through GoFundMe. So we don't have a way of knowing what y'all did with that money. Did y'all fly the content creators out? Now, I'm not talking about those who participated in the actual event. Maybe they're speakers. But I'm talking about those of you who appeared. What they do, pay for your flight, your hotel, your food and other accommodations? Is that why you won't hop off that bitch's clit? But you all have to think about these things because I've seen what has taken place in this space. But it was a setup and a money grab. But from the videos I've seen, I was like, okay, I mean, y'all can't buy a bitch lunch. Get her some nice water, not the cheap ones, but the nice water. Perhaps party favors. Because again, it's DC, not too far from the Commonwealth, right? So it was hot. You know, this time of year, the weather can get super, super hot. Oh, that's the other thing. Yes. With events, see, if you're dumbass to talk to a lawyer, again, you would have known all of this. With public events, right? For every certain number of people, you have to have medical staff present or people who know CPR. Because, I mean, they said they got the police, but I ain't seen none. Now, if you had the police there, they're CPR trained. But, you know, the fact that you didn't have that could get you fined or, again, lawsuit. You all do not know who you're playing with. Because contrary to what you dumb bitches are suggesting, some of us are more involved in things than what you realize. We know a little more than what you think. And as someone who has been involved in organizing things like banquets, luncheons, dinners, stuff like that, major liability. Oh, yeah. That's another thing. You all were using microphones, right? And, you know, CDC requirements are that so if you have a microphone, right, at an event or any public place, after every person uses the microphone, you're supposed to sanitize it. Otherwise, you put people at risk of getting COVID. Did you know that? Did you know that, oh brave one, since we're cowards? Did you know that, you dastardly demon? It is quite possible that some of the people who attended that event got COVID, because that's the other thing. According to CDC requirements, the way you all had people closely gathered at an event where someone is speaking publicly, that's another risk for COVID. We know COVID is spread through the air. So if any of those speakers had COVID and they are speaking out to a crowd of people, that's another liability, oh brave one. Braveheart, that's your new nickname. That's another liability, Braveheart. Okay? The list goes on and on and on. And you know, it would be terrible for me to just write everything down and contact the CDC, as well as the city of Washington, D.C., or whatever. It's not really a city, but you know what I mean. Fuck it. Y'all know what I mean. It would be terrible for me to contact their officials and express my concerns as a concerned citizen. But y'all had people like very close up on each other, yelling and screaming in public. That could possibly spread COVID. Because, oh yes, that's another thing a lawyer probably would have suggested. Maybe they would have suggested that people show proof that they've been properly vaccinated and boosted. Now, if they have medical reasons that they can't get vaccinated and or boosted, then you would, of course, you're not going to ask people to tell you all their business medically. That's not fair. But you would require them to wear a mask. Did you consider that maybe you should have had a mask requirement? Braveheart, darling? Did you consider any of this? This is why when we tell you to leave divestors alone, you really might want to pay attention. You really might. Because, I mean, I'd hate to have to fuck up your entire life just because you don't know how to shut the fuck up. But I'll do it. I will, because I'm sick of being nice to people who are really trying to attack us. And especially, if you have a monetized YouTube channel, your channel is a business. So it presents a financial risk when people are flagging you and it's false flagging. Just because you all don't like what we're saying, just because you all are just a bunch of disgusting ass mammies, doesn't mean that you get to falsely attack us. Because see, if I did any of the stuff I just talked about, that's me being a law-abiding citizen, a law-abiding citizen, and reporting you for several legal violations and possible violations of CDC regulations. And it's really sad that some of y'all should have known better, and you didn't. That's why it was probably not a good idea to have it on camera, because now we can see, okay, doesn't look like y'all wiped down that microphone. Doesn't look like you were practicing social distancing. Doesn't look like you had the people standing far enough away from you so that as you're presenting publicly, right, you're not potentially spreading COVID around. Oh, yeah, that's another thing. Did you inform the participants of whether or not you are properly vaccinated and boosted? Because again, if you're not and they're getting COVID, raggedy. Just the whole thing was raggedy. And we were warning you, hey, it's a pandemic. This might not be a good idea, especially I think the COVID rates in DC are probably fairly high. And some of you came from places where the rate is going up. Did you consider any of that with your little setup and money grab? You created all that room to get yourself royally fucked up legally over less than $40,000. It's very easy to combat these narratives of these lying, snakish women. It's really like child's play for me. Okay? And that thing y'all are doing where you're saying, oh, keep talking, keep saying our names. Nobody's dumb. We know y'all are doing that because you're trying to flag. Mass reporting people. But yes, thank you for being so ignorant as to give us everything we need to do what is necessary to remind you bitches that your place is beneath us. Period. That's your place. Beneath me, bitch. But yes, cowards, lesbians, those are the type of insults you're hurling at Black women who are warning other Black women of the need to be safe, to protect ourselves, you're suggesting that we show up to a public event and fight men? Are you crazy? From a biological perspective, that wouldn't make sense. Men by nature possess more physical strength than women. I mean, what do you think we are, beasts and brutes? We don't have the strength to fight men. What? I thought that's why you had the police there. I thought that's why you had security for that. But no, you wanted us there to be on the front lines of your fight? Are you kidding? Wow. Thank you for proving yourself to be just as demented and disgusting as I felt like you were. And let's be clear on something else. And then I'm a wrap because I know it's late. Good Lord, it's almost 1:30. I was supposed to be going to bed early tonight. Let's talk about one other thing. Let me see how I want to say this. You all have wreaked havoc in this space. And let me tell you something. We're not going to sit here and watch you destroy what women in this sector have built for something approaching 15 years. Simply not going to happen. I'm simply not going to do it. Simply. Okay? Bitch. I'm not going to do it. There are other women in this space who are not going to do it. If something happens to other Black women, we at least want you to be warned. We want you to make an informed decision. If you choose to continue to deal with the problem, you're doing it knowing, okay, this is what's likely to happen. You're doing it knowing, hey, this is what they are capable of. You won't be able to say, well, I didn't know, nobody told me. Nope, bitch, we told you. Sorry you did, but you were warned. Okay? So to now observe what has happened, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that you're so money hungry that you would put other Black women at risk. It's unfortunate, but not unexpected. You all have been doing it for years. And it's like every couple months, or every few years, there's a new Black woman that comes along, pretends to care about the space, only to say, psych, I don't fuck with y'all, and I think you all should be doxxed. The same thing. Every year. Same MO. And now I'm just at a point where it's like, no, I'm just gonna have to be the petty, childish bitch that dwells within me and just let you hoes know, Because see, when I come at you, it's not doxing. If your information is public, it's not doxing. And that's law. You don't like it? Vote. Have lobby days. Instead of having connects with YouTube, bitch, like, do you have a connect with your police department? Because that's one that's going to be more beneficial to you. Do you have a connect with your state, local, or federal legislatures? Because that's going to be more beneficial to you. But your real problem is you're jealous of the growth of the larger content creators in this space. You all lack razzle dazzle and spark. That's just what it is. So you can't hold an audience. And you're looking at certain women in this space and you're jealous that they're being supported. But let me tell you something. Something that is commonly said by Black people, right? Is what God has for you is for you. And that is true. If the Holy Spirit says, this is what I have for you, then bitch, it's mine and ain't going nowhere. Period. Sorry, I keep using that word, but you know what I mean. If it's mine, it's mine. God, God, the universe, the creator wants Black women to be warned and to get away from the source of our problem. And what you all are trying to do is morph the space into this area where you're basically saying that you're mad at Black men, but you love them. And it's like, what? I don't love nobody that's killing me, raping me, unaliving me. You hoes got kids. You love the niggas that's molesting your kids. You love the niggas that's otherwise abusing your kids, that's going upside your head every day? Hell no. And I say that as a woman who is in the middle of a divorce with a Black man. A Black man that on paper would be ideal, right? Good job, college educated, own home, all that stuff. But when you think about it, ladies, that's normal. For men in other communities, it is normal and expected for a man to have a job and be able to provide for a woman and have a home. That's normal. And it's not something to be exalted. And the other thing is that same man, right? That same man is the one who got upset with me one day and told me he had looked up how much time he would get in jail if he raped me, and I reported him. He said he looked it up, decided he was willing to do the time, and told me that he could make me have sex with him, make me have sex with him anytime he wanted to. That was my wake-up call. Because when people start saying things like that, that means, wait, you thought about it. Red flag number one. You looked it up and said, well, you're willing to do the time. This is a man who, as far as I know, does not have a history of abusing women. A man who, as far as I know, has not sexually assaulted a woman. And that's the man who threatened to rape me. That's because, see, we don't have any kids. So in the Commonwealth, if you don't have any kids and you've been separated for 6 months, once you have your settlement agreement, you can file for divorce, right? But if you don't have the settlement agreement, you have to be separated for at least a year. This is the man who told me after I left him, he told me that he would not sign a separation agreement unless I brought the paperwork to our marital residence, because until the divorce is final, that I still have a legal right to that property. And I'm coming for every cent. He told me he would not sign the paperwork unless I would sleep with him and let him record it. Okay? Again, there was nothing in his background to suggest that he would do something like that. The same man that took every penny out of our joint account except for $22.13 once I left him. Had I not had my own account, I would have been bankrupt. Nothing in his background would have suggested that he would do something like that. The same man that lied to anyone who would listen to him and accused me of leaving him to move in with another man, which was not true. I live by myself. I don't know if I want another one in my house right now. Okay. Again, nothing in his background that would suggest he would do something like that. The same man who is 12 years older than me, who met me at a time in my life where he knew I wanted to get married and have children, dated me for years, got married, was married for years, before he admitted to me that he's known for quite some time that he is not able to biologically have kids outside of IVF. Nothing in his background would have suggested that he would do something like this. So there is no such thing as vetting when it comes to Black men. You can't do it. You can do every background check in the world. You can make sure he checks off every box in the world, house, job, whatever. And that will be the very same man that threatens you and acts out on it. Y'all don't hear these cases about quote unquote solid Black men killing their wives and girlfriends left and right. And the day that my husband told me that he could make me sleep with him anytime he wanted to was the day that I realized that I could be one of the women that we talk about on our channels. And that's why you've got to leave them alone. It's a lesson I learned older. But those of you who are younger need to know it. And you've got, listen, there's no such thing as choosing better when it comes to them. There's no such thing as having certain standards when it comes to them. Because you could have a seemingly ideal life, like me. Lived in a nice, quiet neighborhood. I was a work from home wife. You know, had money, had all the things I needed from a provision standpoint. And was threatened by your so-called good Black man. Your so-called hardworking Black man. Basically told me that in his mind, I had no right to determine what to do with my body. And again, he looked up how much time we could get, because this is a Commonwealth state in Virginia, okay? The laws against sexual assault and rape are very strong, right? However, thanks to you dumb, dusty-ass bitches who are supporting things like bail reform, they are now basically decriminalizing domestic violence. So since we're married and at the time we were not separated, if he had raped me and I called the police, it wouldn't be a standard rape charge. In that case, you know, here in the Commonwealth, I think that's at least 10, 15 years. But they would file it under domestic disturbance or domestic violence. So he wouldn't do any time. They would arrest him, they would book him, and probably within 24 to 48 hours, he would be out on bail. Out and be able to do whatever he wanted to me, because that's happened to Black women too. Happened to one Black woman who was married to a judge, a Black man who was a judge. So you would think, okay, law-abiding citizen as an enforcer of the law, right? But what people didn't know was that he was beating her horribly. So she left him She contacted the police, had him arrested, got a restraining order. He was out. In that case, the same day, I think that was in Ohio. He was out the same day. And they said that once he got out of jail, because a bail reform organization paid his bail, once he was out of jail, he left the jail, went to his estranged wife's house, and killed her. So that's why I had to take that threat seriously. And frankly, as my divorce date approaches, the threat level is there. Women are in our most precarious times when we're going through a breakup or divorce. And words are prophetic, so I'm trying to be very careful about my words. Okay? There are a lot of women who've been in the middle of a divorce. And once a man realizes that the woman is really leaving, he harms her. So that's why I've had to alert the men in my family. I'm like, look, I know y'all some crazy motherfuckers, but we might have to step. Okay? Because I'm not going to sit here and just twiddle my thumbs. Okay? I'm going to get a gun, which is legal for me to have, but I'm going to get a gun so that I'm able to protect myself, because I am 100% willing to protect myself if he acts out on those threats. And that is now action that I have to take. So I have to physically appear in court. They won't let me have a virtual court date, so it's like, okay, I have to physically appear in court. And that will be my first time being in his presence since January 15th of 2021 when I left him. And so, yes. So to those of you who say, well, you were married to a Black man and da-da-da-da. Yeah, and I can tell you from firsthand experience that good, bad, whatever, no, you are in danger. Dealing with them equals danger. And it doesn't make sense to call us cowards for wanting to be safe. Nobody wants to get beat up. Nobody wants to get sexually assaulted. What are you talking about? Nobody wants to have kids with a man only to find out that man is abusing the children. What kind of people are you? Oh no, it's all right. I appreciate you all for being concerned, but I just want to be very clear and very honest and open with you about the why here. So sure, I was able to get married and be married to a guy who on paper and based on outside appearances would be ideal. But I was in a very dangerous and fucked up predicament. And that's the other thing. It's nothing to brag about being able to get married. Any good-hearted and compassionate woman is going to be able to get married. The issue is we need to be careful about who we're marrying. But the other thing that's not cool is it's not cool to demonize women who want to get married. Like, what the fuck? No one wants to be dating forever. Okay? I'm sorry. No. Nothing against those of you who want that. But again, you all have got to stop demonizing Black women for what we want, for our preferences. My preference is not to deal with a group of men who are known to harm and unalive Black women. My preference is to be in the position to be able to remarry, because contrary to the lies that are being spread, sweetheart, as a woman in my age group, darling, I'm more likely to get married a second time than you are likely to ever get married. Don't get mad at me. The data proves that. Men who are looking for wives don't have a problem marrying women who are 40 plus who have been through a divorce. The type of men that we talk about wanting, view it as a red flag if you're a woman of a particular age and you've dated and slept with 30, 40, 50 men, and in all that time, none of those men decided that you were wife material. Okay? So you can laugh. Oh, and that's the other thing. Also, women who have never been married, so women in this age group, if you've never been married, you're more likely to get married than women who have slept around a lot, and women who are repeat and serial baby mamas, right? Now, it's one thing to have a child with someone or children with someone and the relationship didn't work. But men view it as a red flag, and I'm sorry, I just have to say it. Men view it as a red flag if 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 men have had children with you, and none of those men decided to marry you. It means something is off with your picker. Either you don't know how to assess a situation where you shouldn't have children, or frankly, darling, there's something about you that's off-putting to men. But people understand, okay, a woman, maybe she chose to um, focus on her career, or a woman was married and the marriage didn't work, or maybe the woman was never married, but she was in a long-term relationship or two, and life happened and the relationship didn't work. Men who are not knuckleheads understand that. But since you all have so much shit to say about divestors, let's be clear. You all are mad because our message is hitting home to some of you. And you're seeing it play out in your life, okay? Where men will sleep with you, but you don't know how to seal the deal. And if a man does deal with you, it's because he doesn't have a job and he needs a place to live. Okay, I'm sorry. I mean, you're the ones who put your information out here. Some of you are talking shit about divestors, and listen, I don't want to make fun of people who are going through things. Some of you are talking about divestors, and you don't even have a place to live, and your family members won't even help you. You're making fun of a young Black woman who chooses to still live at home, but is home. Her family's not kicking her out or making her sleep on the couch. I saw that too. And I'm like, this is who's calling us out? And you make Black women look ridiculous. And you are the ones that are proving what those knuckleheads in the manosphere are saying. They look at you and say, well, see, this is what we're talking about. And we're simply looking at Black women and say, hey, and listen, I have to say it. You're looking at Black women and saying like, hey, you want to be sure that you're in the position where whether you have a man or not, you're able to take care of yourself. You want to be in the position where you are only entertaining men who want to nurture you, who want to care about you, who want to provide for you. You don't want to deal with type of men who are comfortable living on your couch. You don't realize how those situations end up. Ooh, some of y'all mothers must be raggedy. They didn't teach you anything. Don't you realize that men like that, what they do is once they get on their feet, they go off and pursue the women that they actually want. You all didn't know that? You don't have a mother, a grandmother, an aunt that warned you about that? Okay? That's why it's a red flag that so many Black men stay single for a long time, because what they're doing is they're getting their money up and they're leaving you behind. Imagine thinking so poorly of yourself that you choose to deal with a man that can't keep a job, that doesn't have a car, that can't do something as basic as maintain a roof over his head. A man that's so low budget that nothing in him wants to take care of his own children. That's his bloodline, his legacy. And he's throwing them to the wolves. And those are the men that we're supposed to be around. It's patently absurd. And it's absurd to lead younger Black women to that. It's like, no, honey, let's reassess this. Because you don't want to be the girl, right? I see all these stories about women crying about they were there for a man when he didn't have anything and blah, 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 blah. And then as soon as he has 2 pennies to rub together, he leaves her for someone else. Okay? Anyway, I'm going to go to bed. Sorry to be so long-winded. I just wanted to share some things. Because I was so disgusted to see that lady say, "You're cowards for not wanting to show your face." And then having that camera all up in those women's faces. All I'm saying is you all would be wise to be careful. Be careful. And if you are paying to attend an event, there's nothing wrong with you asking to not be on camera. And if you did not give your written permission to be filmed and posted on social media, write an email or a letter to that content creator or to the content creators who posted you online and ask them to take the video down or to edit you out. And if you don't, you have the right to report them for that. People should have your permission to post you online, especially if you did not sign a release prior to the event. All right? All right. Be brave, ladies. Have a good night.